Amen. Well, it's good to be in the Lord's house this morning. Good to see everybody out. Thank you so much for being here. If you've got your Bibles, find your way to 2 Chronicles, chapter number 32. 2 Chronicles, chapter number 32. And if you've been following along for the last 3-4 weeks here, you'll be thinking, what happened to chapter 31? And it's still there. It's still in the Bible. We're just not going to preach it like we preach the rest of them. I'm going to throw a few things at us out of chapter 31. But I don't know if I can say this and y'all take it the right way. I don't want to make little of a chapter of the Word of God, but chapter 31 is kind of a filler chapter, if that makes sense. It just kind of continues what was going on in chapter 30 and ties it into what's going on in chapter 32. So we're going to just highlight some things out of chapter 31 here dealing with Hezekiah, and we'll move on into chapter 32 and get what the Lord has got for us this morning. And He's been good to me. He's showed me a lot, and He's helped me out of this text. And I believe there's a pattern that we can find here in the last 4 or 5 days or times that we've looked at this. We've been building a mini-series inside of a big series, I guess you could say. If you remember when Hezekiah has taken over the kingdom from his wicked daddy, does anybody remember his daddy's name that was the king before him? Ahaz. King Ahaz. Sue doesn't like him. Sue, we were talking about it yesterday. She said, I really just do not like King Ahaz, and I can agree with that. I don't care for him that much either. But King Ahaz here, he is the king, and Hezekiah takes over for him as King Ahaz has died, and he inherited a good kingdom or a bad kingdom? A bad kingdom. He inherited a mess, and we know the kingdom was in disarray. It was in a bad place, and Hezekiah has been dealt a really tough hand. I know whatever your political views on it are, a lot of people were against Governor Tate Reeves when he first got in, and I finally just told somebody, I said, look, he can't really do a good job because of the hand that was dealt him when he first got in here. When he first became governor, Jackson's water system was falling apart, and they had to boil water every single night, and then that wonderful thing called COVID hit in the middle of it. I'm not sure anybody can do a good job when you're dealt a hand like that right when you get there. That's what's happening to Hezekiah. He has been dealt a mess, and now he's got to try to figure it out. He's got to try to build this thing back up. And we've really tried to compare what Hezekiah is doing in repairing the nation of Judah, leading them towards a national revival, to what has been trying to go on in the country today and what's happening in our hearts and what's happening in the church today. We're at a time where we might be in a mess from time to time, where things look dark. In the words of some preachers, they will say things are getting gloriously dark around here. And we do live in dark days, but we realize that God is still on the throne and God is still saving souls. He's still calling people to preach. He's still calling men to the mission field. He's still doing everything that He's always done. It's just so dark sometimes it gets hard to see that through the rest of everything that's going on. But we know that He's still doing those things. And we've kind of tried to compare the text to that, and we've dealt with a few things so far. I dealt firstly with preparing the place of worship, and we talked about Hezekiah and how that he worked on building back the temple of God and opening the doors and cleaning it out and getting it ready to go once again, preparing the place of worship. We talked about him preparing the pieces of worship, how that he prepared the instruments and all of the dishes and the plates and things that were in the temple that were used in worship. And then we dealt last time with preparing the people to worship, getting the people ready to worship. And we talked about how that they showed up in great numbers, and the Bible tells us that they have experienced joy and they have experienced a time of worship that they had not seen since the days of Solomon. They haven't seen it all the way back since when the kingdom was still one kingdom. They haven't seen anything like it since Israel and Judah split into two separate kingdoms. It's been that long since they've had that type of revival and that type of worship where God has met with them and God has done big and mighty things. So we've dealt with the place of worship, the pieces of worship, and the people in worship. But I'd like to deal this morning with proving that we did worship. Proving that we did worship. Well, what in the world is worship? We've all got a picture of worship in our mind. I saw a little thing on Facebook the other day, and it's a church in Searcy, Arkansas, and they've got some kids that advertise for the church, and the way they do it is they'll take funny videos, and one of the ones I saw, it was like a little fight scene, and the guy got kicked, and when he got kicked, they clipped it in, and it was one of their church kids getting thrown into some chairs, and he popped back up and said, y'all come see us at Searcy Baptist Church or whatever it was. And they're making little clips to make this fun little advertisement for their church. And they're doing all these things to try to get people want to come to worship. And they put another video on there, and it said the different ways that people worship. And I can't remember all of them, but one of them was like worship, and they were doing their hands like this, and they said that's the it's good worship, like you just made the field goal, it's good. And they had somebody else that when they were in worship, they had their hands like this, and they said that's the rockin' the baby worship, and stuff like that. They had all these different things lined out. And I could ask you what we think worship is. Is worship when everybody in the church is amening and shouting the preacher down? Is worship when the altars are full and people are praying and getting help? Is worship when the little old lady with her white hanky is going up and down the road squealing, and I can't even make that squeal? But is that worship? Is worship uplifting a hand? What is worship? It's not really any of those things. Those are all outward pictures of what's going on in here, what's going on in our heart. True worship is when we get to the point where we are literally in awe of God, in awe of everything that God has done for us. I was looking for a good definition, and I found that worship is a picture of totally giving in to God. Giving in to God and surrender into obedience and surrender into His will and His direction and surrendering into praise of Him. Now, we've talked before, I've brought it up. The first time you find the word worship in the Word of God is in Genesis chapter 22. Abraham is taking his son Isaac under direction from God. He is headed to the mountain, and he is going to go up there, and he is going to offer and sacrifice his only son Isaac on an altar of wood. Does that sound familiar? It's a wonderful picture of Christ, what He did for us, but it's what's going on there is he's taking Isaac to offer him up. He takes those two servants with him. He gets there to the edge of the mountain, the bottom of the mountain, and the Lord says, that's the mountain right there. And Abraham looks at his men and says, y'all stay here. Me and the lad are going to go and worship. I don't know about y'all, but if we put a Facebook post out on the Beulah Church Facebook page and said, y'all come worship with us, I don't think many people are going to show up intending to go to a sacrifice. Not many people would say what Abraham has been instructed from God to do constitutes worship. People oftentimes will look at that and say, that's not worship. There's no way he can go up there and worship. He's about to lose his only son that he waited 100 years for. Literally. I'm not just figuratively saying he waited 100 years. It was 100 years that he waited to get Isaac. Now you're going to go up there? No. Worship is not because of what was supposed to go on. Worship was because Abraham realized what God's position was. He realized how mighty God was and how much above himself that God was. And he realized what God had already done for him and blessed him with. So he came in a state of total surrender and total obedience and said, God, I trust you and everything you've done. I'm giving it all to you. There's nothing else of me. It's just you, God. And that is worship. That's worship. That's the biblical picture of worship, is when we get to the point, can I put it to you this way? Biblical worship takes place when everything in and of ourselves is way over there, and we're over here with God. When we can take a step away from the world, and we can take a step away from the cares and the trials and temptations of life, and get a hold of God, and just sit there. You ever gone somewhere and something just blown you away? Maybe it's some great view, or maybe God has stepped in and done something big, and you can't help but to just sit there and go, wow. Wow. Because of what God has done, that's worship. That's worship. When we get to that point where we realize everything that God has done. When we realize that us that were just sinners and we're in the flesh and we're just human and we were headed to hell, and the fact that Christ left His home in heaven and came and died on the cross for us to pay for our sin debt and carry our punishment for us, when we can look up at God and think, wow. Thank you for doing that. That's a picture of worship. So what they've done in chapter 30 is they have experienced worship. They have. They've left everything else. They left off of the child sacrifice. They left the idol worship. They left all the false gods that Ahaz had brought in. They left all that stuff behind, and they went to God. They went back to the temple, and they got everything started again. And we talked last week about they had a 7-day revival feast meeting. And then after that, they took consensus, and all of them said, let's do it another 7 days. For 2 weeks now, they have been in a state of worship with God, one-on-one with Him. They've been there with gladness and joy exceeding and full of glory. They have been in the midst of worship. Everything is great. Judah and all these folks from Israel that came from their own country to go to Judah and experience this type of worship, they're all doing really good right now. Y'all agree with that? They're in a good spot. Compared to where they started with the beginning of Hezekiah's reign to where they are at the end of chapter number 30, things are vastly better. They're back worshiping God. They're back in unity with one another. They're back doing temple worship and the sacrifice and the priests and the Levites and sanctify. Everything is going really, really good. They're in a good place. And I imagine in their minds, they're sitting there saying, nobody move. Nobody breathe too hard. Nobody look at it the wrong way because we want to stay right here. I was messing with a guy the other day, and we had something he was having to sit there and hold that he was working on, and he was going to have to just stand there for 30, 45 minutes, it seemed like. So I took something, and I carried it over there, and I balanced it on it so that we could both just stand back and let it do the work. But I had to balance it and work hard. It kept trying to fall off, and I finally got it to stay. And when it finally stayed, we both stepped back, and I said, easy. Don't breathe on it. Don't look at it wrong. Don't move it. Don't do nothing because it might fall off of there and it all go bad again. I wonder if the children of Judah are right there as well. We've seen how it is. Now we're good. Don't mess it up. Don't mess this thing up. Don't do anything that's going to take away from God. Don't do anything that's going to get us back into the mess we were. We want to stay right here. And right in the midst of their worship, right when they have been brought back to God and God has put them back together in unity and things are doing so well, guess who decides to come bebopping in right in the midst of their worship time? There's supposed to be a king from Assyria to come in and try to take those cities. They're in chapter 32. And I'm going to get to it in just a second. I ain't forgot. I just ain't there yet. Chapter number 32. What's the first few words? After these things, isn't that what it says? After these things. After these things. After they've been in a great state of worship. After everything good that is going on. After they have finally got that victory. I don't know if you've ever been there as a Christian, but I've been there where I've been praying, God, I need some help. I need you to show up. I need to do something big. I'm just wore out. I'm running on fumes. I've got nothing left. And God shows up and meets with me. And things are going so good. I'm on top of the world. And then the next day rolls around and here comes the devil sneaking in. And he's like, no, you're not going to have any more joy. No. You're not going to have any more good times. No, you're not going to worship. No, you're not going to have any more good church service. You're not going to have any more of this. I'm going to take it all from you. He comes in and he tries to ruin it. Can I give you an example? May 1st, 2016, I'm at revival meeting at Martin Baptist Church. I didn't go to surrender to preach. I went because I was dating Sue and she wanted me to go, and she's a pretty girl, and I said, I'm going to go to church with a pretty girl. That was all I had on my mind. I show up at Martin Baptist Church. We have invitation for an hour. A whole hour. You know how I know? Because when it started, I looked at the watch, and when it kept going, I was like, I wish y'all would hurry up. I still wish you would hurry up. And I wish you would hurry up again. And they wouldn't hurry up. They got up there, and I bet you Brother Andy said one more verse at least 17 times. Like, that ain't one more verse. That's one more songbook, Brother Andy. Let's be done with this thing. An hour of sitting there gripping the pew. No, no, no. Finally, I went down and I surrendered my life to the ministry. I'm on top of the world. I'm on top of the world. Me and Sue have been dating for 2 years at the time, and her mama was sitting there, and she's going to get mad at me for doing this, but I'm going to do it anyways. So I get down there at the altar, and I've just surrendered to preach, and Miss Regina come out there, and I don't know how she did it, but she was going something like that. I don't know what she was doing. It looked like she just scored a touchdown in the NFL, and she's finna spike the ball or something like that. But she's high-stepping over there, and she done hugged my neck, and she's squalling, and everybody's squalling. Everything's going good. And then the next day, I'm on top of the world, and everything is wonderful. And I'm headed home. In the rearview mirror, I see blue lights. I was way up here. There ain't nothing to take you off your high like seeing blue lights. Because it took me from way up here to way down here real quick. You know what else took me even lower? when Mr. Philip Mitchell gets out of the vehicle. And I don't know if y'all know Philip Mitchell from Pontotoc or not, but the man wrote his own mama a speeding ticket and didn't let her out of it. I'm telling the truth. So I knew there was no hope for me to get out of this thing. He comes up to the window, and I'm pulled over. I'm trying to be just as nice as I can, doing everything right I'm supposed to be. He comes up there. How you doing today, officer? License registration. Fine. I mean, if you're going to write me a ticket, at least be nice about it. At least let me take it and say thank you or something. I don't know. But anyways, ticket, 67 to 55. Was I speeding? Absolutely. But so was everybody else. And they caught me. So much for me being on top of the world. I just surrendered my life to the ministry, and the Lord is blessing me. We had a great night in revival. It's not even been 24 hours yet, and I got a speeding ticket. You know how many speeding tickets I've had in my life? 3 speeding tickets. And one of them was that night. The other one was in Alabama, so now I actively go around Alabama if I can, because them folks are mean. Anybody else have to pay a speeding ticket that costs $500? We're doing 73 and a 70? I don't like going to Alabama if I can help it. I ain't mad at Alabama, Miss Shelby, okay? They mean that. They mean to me. I don't know if I just got a target on my back or what. But I'm on top of the world. Everything's going good. And then the world comes around. The devil comes by and he's like, nope. There goes that happiness. There goes that joy. It's all done now. It's over. You're not going to be happy anymore. Here in the text, they're having great revival. They're doing wonderful. Let me read the tail end of chapter 30 right here. It says in verse 26, chapter 30, verse 36, so there was great joy in Jerusalem, for since the time of Solomon, the son of David, king of Israel, there was not the like in Jerusalem. They are having a revival for the ages in the land of Judah. And now, in chapter 32, after these things. After what, Brother Easton? After everything that went on. After all the bad that was happening, and then the revival that sweeps through, where everybody's going through revival, they're probably looking at each other, Brother Barry. They're probably saying, hey, you remember how things used to be? Look at what's going on now. It ain't going to be like that no more. Hey, you remember a few weeks ago how bad it was when King Ahaz was still here, and now we got King Hezekiah? Things are turning around. Hey, did you know that ain't going to happen no more? All the bad times are gone. It's time for a new leaf. Things are better now. We're excited. We're happy. The world is changing for us. They probably thought that was the last time they're going to have to deal with something like that. And then, they ain't even cleaned up from the revival feast yet. There's still dirty dishes in the sink right now because Miss Judy ain't got there to wash them all. I love you, Miss Judy. I'm messing with her. They ain't got there to clean the dishes just yet. They ain't got there to pick up. They're still sitting there in the bliss of what was just happening, how good things were, and now all of a sudden they hear the horns and the trumpets, and here comes the king of Assyria bringing his folks because he wants them. The paint ain't even dry yet, so to speak. Everything's going good. Man, we had a tremendous service on Sunday morning and Sunday night, and Monday gets here and it's like we got a double dose of devil. Anybody ever been there before? Anybody ever had? You seem like you're stepping on the clouds. You feel like things are wonderful for you, and then you get a big old dose of him, and it's like, nope, no joy for you. You know what you got to do in those times? You could sit there and you can think back to all the worshiping you just did. But when the devil comes a-knocking, or when the king of Assyria comes a-knocking, now it's time to prove that we actually did meet with God and worship. There's one or two things that's fixing to happen right here with the children of Judah. They can either fold before the king of Assyria just like they did those other kings when Ahaz was still there, or they can stand up and they can buckle down and double down on God, and they can trust Him. And they can put all of their hopes and all of their dreams in Him and stick with Him and trust that He's going to get them through that trial. You know what happens to us, child of God? We get to that point in time where things are good. We've met with Him. We're praying. We're reading. We're worshiping. We're saved by the grace of God. We're on top of the world. The devil comes by. Life smacks us. Seems like they're smacking us all the time. But it just hits us so hard, we have one or two options. We can either fold and we can quit. Or we can say, nope, I knew there was going to come trials. I knew there was going to come bad days. I knew there was going to come times when I was going to have to go through something like this again. But now it's going to be different because instead of going through it without God, I'm going to go with Him. What's that little illustration we use all the time? You're walking down the beach with God and there's two sets of footprints. And you start going through something and you look back behind you and there's only one set. Everybody thinks, well, where did God go? God didn't go nowhere. He's just carrying you. That's why there's only one set of footprints. You can either go through the trial in the way that you used to and handle it the way you used to, or we can prove that we've met with God and we can trust Him and let Him carry us through it. I like the second option. Because I spent 19 years of my life trying to do it my way, the way I wanted to do it, and guess what it got me? Nothing but heartache. So I believe I'll just go with God. You'll find here that they've got to prove their worship. They are prepared the place to worship. They prepared the pieces. They prepared themselves. And now after all that is done and the dust is settled, they got to prove that there's been a real lasting change in their life. That they really are in a better place as a nation. After these things, chapter 32, verse number 1. After these things, and the establishment thereof, Sennacherib, king of Assyria, came and entered into Judah. And he encamped against the fenced cities and thought to win them for himself. After. It's always after the good times. It's always after the times that I've met with God, the times that God has done something big and good in my life. It's the time that He's answered prayer. It's always when something good goes on, and that's when the devil shows up, it seems like, because he wants to derail all the good stuff that's going on and keep us from going towards God anymore. Peter had something to say about that in 1 Peter chapter 4. 1 Peter 4:12 says this, Beloved, think it not strange. When he says beloved, he's talking to the church. He's talking to those He loves. He's talking to the church. Beloved, think it not strange concerning the fiery trial which is to try you. He didn't say the trial that might try you. He said the fiery trial which is to try you. It is going to happen. It is not a matter of if, it is a matter of when. It is going to happen. Think it not strange, the fiery trial which is to try you, as though some strange thing happened to you. It's not that it just so happened to be your day. It's not that the devil is sitting down there and he's got the little thing that you use for bingo to call out the numbers. It's not that he's sitting there rolling that thing and draws out a name and says, oh, it is now Easton Smith's turn to suffer what I got for him. He's not doing that down there. It's not a random thing. It's coming at the opportune time there for him to come and to hit us. Maurice, do you really think the devil targets us when we're weak? Yeah. I absolutely do. You got any biblical proof on it? Yeah, I absolutely do. When did he go and try to tempt Jesus in the wilderness? How long had he been fasting? I still can't say that right. How long had Jesus been fasting? There we go. Got it out that time. There it is. I was trying to do like this, and I was going to be wrong. He's been out there 40 days fasting. If I get hungry and you make me fast 40 minutes, I'm about ready to bite somebody. I get mean. Darden does too. She got that from me. Sorry. Well, the other day we was going somewhere, and both the kids, man, they look like feral. I mean, it looked like a raccoon that had rabies, and you strapped them in their car seat in the back seat of that thing, and they're just going everywhere. I'm going to look back there, and they're going to chew through the straps and be like headbutting the window or something. I didn't know what was going on. But I'm like, what in the world is going on with these kids? I'm like, they're hungry. Went by and we got them something to eat. We put that chicken nugget in their mouth. One, they were quiet. Whew, that's great. And they got steel. And it changed everything. Sometimes I'm that way. When I'm out there and I'm hungry, when Jesus was out there and he was in the wilderness and he has been fasting for 40 days, he's at a point where the devil thought he might be weak enough. Sure, I'm glad the devil was wrong. I'm glad that he was wrong on that. But he targets us when we're weak. After all the good times, after all the things have been going so well, we feel like we've got that we've turned the new leaf. It's not going to get to that point again, and then boom, here he comes. After these things, you'll find the test of their worship. Then you'll find the test of their worship hits close to home. What did it say there? It said the king of Assyria came and stopped next to Judah. That's not what it says. It says he came and he entered into Judah. They didn't just hear about a trial that someone in the next state over was going through. They didn't just hear about the church down the road and what they were struggling with. They didn't just hear what that coworker was going through. They heard what was coming to their doorstep. After these things, the devil comes and he hits. And he seems to hit us where it hurts, does he not? We can't sit here as Christians, and I say it all the time, we can't sit here and stick our heads in the sand and think that we can just sit here like this and everything's going to go around us. The other day, Darden was hiding. She's got a little indoor trampoline in the sunroom. And she's to that point where you play hide and seek with her. If you don't find her in the first 10 seconds, she goes, I'm in here. Like, you're not very good at this game. But she said, I'm in here. So I go in there, and she's got her trampoline. It's over there next to the couch, so it's kind of behind the arm of the couch. But guess how she was hiding? She had curled up and done this on the trampoline. Because if she couldn't see me, I couldn't see her, apparently. Sometimes as Christians, we think if we just keep our head down, if we don't say too much, we don't pray too much, we're not too active, we don't do too much for God, that the devil is just going to go around us, he's just going to leave us alone, and we're never going to have to deal with anything. We couldn't be more wrong. He's still going to come by, and he's still going to hit us. Think it not strange, the fiery trial. It's coming. It's coming. I wish I could sit here as your pastor and with a clean heart and honesty be able to tell you that once you were saved, life was all rainbows and butterflies the rest of your years. But I would be lying. I would be lying. Things have been good. Man, things have been good. We've had some great services. We had a great revival. The Lord's met with us. He's doing good. We had some visitors coming last week. We've had some more visitors coming around, and people are calling and interested and talking, and it's been good. We've had some great times in worship, but I want you to be ready, and I want us to understand that here in just a little while, and I don't know of anything that's coming. I hope it's a long time, but one of these days we're going to look up, and there's going to be a king that's going to come by, and our good times might not be so good anymore. That's church. That's life. We have ups and we have downs. But when those times come, it's for us to not run away, but instead to prove that we had some lasting change and our faith was built in the good times of worship that we had. Because when this king shows up and he enters into Judah, nobody came to King Hezekiah and said, Hezekiah, just throw in the towel, just surrender, and maybe he'll leave us alone. Nobody did that. Nobody did that in this text. Matter of fact, I'm going to get to it here in a minute. It might be 5 hours from now tonight that I get to it. But anyways, he didn't do that. They didn't cower. They didn't quit. They didn't run away. They didn't just say, oh, king, you want our town? That's fine. Let me pack my bags and you can have it and I'll leave. They didn't do that. They got the defenses ready and they got ready to stand their ground. And most of all, they trusted God that he was going to get them through it. You know what a sign of true worship is? Is when the things that used to derail us and take our joy and take our happiness and ruin our mood, when those things can hit us and instead of it ruining everything, we can literally just say, it's all right, God's going to take care of it. And keep on it going. And keep on it going. I don't know if you've ever been to that place in your life where you could sit there and you can worry and worry and worry. I made a speech on worry when I was in junior college at ICC. I had to do an informative speech. I'm not a public speaker. I'm not a public speaker, I promise. I've broke so many rules. I've had hands in my pockets. Now, I can't preach with gum in my mouth. If I did, it'd be on Brother Barry's forehead by the second point. It's going to go flying somewhere, so I can't do that. But there's a lot of things that I haven't done good as a public speaker. But when I took public speaking, I made this speech on worry. And I believe that it was Snoopy there out of the Peanuts cartoon. He said, and I'm probably going to mess the quote up. Y'all forgive me, but I'm close, okay? Y'all don't know the quote, do you? All right, good. Then I got it right. Y'all won't know no different. But he said, worrying about today's problems doesn't do anything but steal tomorrow's joy. How about that? Snoopy. Snoopy's a wise man, apparently, or a wise dog. I don't even know what type of dog he is, but he's wise. Whoever wrote him is wise. Worrying don't do anything for us except for steal our joy on what we're going through today. Anybody ever looked at something that's coming 2 weeks down the road and worry about it, and you get there and God takes care of you and it's not that big of a deal, and you look back at 2 weeks that you wasted because you were worrying so much that everybody that came by your way, you bit their head off because you was worrying about something. Present, been there. I know I'm not the only one. Worrying will mess us up. They wasn't worried about it. They weren't struggling with it. They just said, hey, we just met with God. We just watched God take a nation that was worshiping false gods and sacrificing babies and doing everything wickedly they could. He just took a nation like that and in 2 weeks' time opened up the house of God, cleaned it out, and turned everybody around with a 2-week-long revival. You mean to tell me you had all them days together? Go back and look at it. I believe it was in the 16th day. They cleaned the inside of the church in 8 days. They cleaned the porch in 8 days. 16th days they were done. And then they had 2 week-long revivals. Y'all do the math on that. 16 and 7 and another 7 is 30, right? How long is 30 days? It's amazing that the Lord lined all this out. How long is 30 days? The month of April. How about that? I didn't intend that. God just lined all that out. The month of April is 30 days. At the beginning of the month, we could have started our work. And God could have met with us in a revival that we had and worship that we had, and He could have done something in our hearts, and He could have started us up, and He could have strengthened us up, and He could have put us in a really good place as a church and as individuals and as families. We could have a great sense of worship right now that He did in 30 days in the month of April, and now that May is here, it could be right on the doorstep that somebody is coming. We could either worry about it, we could either run from it, or we can say, hey, the same God that met with us in the last 30 days and has been so very good to us is the same God that's still here right now to help us do it. He's still right there. After these things, after all of that, they had to make the decision if they were going to trust God or not, because this problem hits close to home, and it does hit close to home. Let me give you this last one, and I'm going to be done, okay? The test of their worship is that it was after all the good things. It was after they thought they were done with this. It's after they thought that they had finally made a turn for the better. It was a test of their worship because it hit close to home. It wasn't somebody down the road. It wasn't somebody that they could ignore and say it's not going to happen here. It had happened right there. And then lastly this morning, it was a test of their worship because this king, this man, did not just come to fight and cause them heartache. The Word of God says he entered into Judah, encamped against the fenced cities, and thought to win them for himself. He didn't come by just to fight for a little while. He came by to end everything that was going on in Judah. Do you think the devil wants to come by and just give you a bad Monday, or do you think he wants to come by and ruin your life? He's not here just to mess up our Monday. When he went after Job, when the devil comes and he's meeting up there with God, and God says, where you been at? And he says, I've just been roaming to and fro the earth. I've just been going around looking for my next target. And God says, have you considered my servant Job? And he uses a word to describe Job that you don't hear very much at all ascribed to any fleshly man. He says, if you consider my servant Job, that he is perfect. Go and read it. It's there. Have you considered Job that he's perfect? We know how the story goes. Satan's like, oh, he's only perfect because you won't let nobody mess with him. You got a hedge about him. You're keeping me from messing with him. And God says, have at it. Just don't touch him. Goes down there and takes the kids, and he takes the flocks, and he takes the hirds, and he just beats all over Job. But it wasn't enough to give Job a bad day. Because Job still sinned not. He still trusted God. He still loved God. He still went with God. Satan wasn't there just to hurt Job. He was there to destroy Job. He said he came back up. And now they're sitting in your Bible, but I imagine it this way. God looked at him and said, told you so. I told you so. Satan looked back at him and said, no, I touched everything else, but if you let me touch his body, then I know that he'll be ready to be done with you. All right, go ahead. Goes back down there, and you know that he touches the body of Job, and he gives him all those bulls, and he beats all over him again. And Job's loving wife looks at him and says, would you just curse God and die? Just be done with this. What did Job say? Thou speak as a... Y'all too scared to say it this close to Mother's Day. You speak like a foolish woman. There you go, I'll say it. You're speaking like one of the foolish women. What are you thinking? You're telling me to curse God and die? You mean the God that gave us some kids and the God that built everything around here? Is that the one you want me to turn around on? No. He says, I'll just stick with God. I'll stick with him. Satan wasn't there just to hurt him. Satan had in his mind to destroy Job. This king has not got in his mind to come and be an inconvenience to Judah. He's got in his mind that everything good that's going on in Judah, he is coming to end it. He's coming to take their towns. He's coming to take their people. He's come to take their worship and trample it and say no more. We'll get to it a little bit later. But you're going to find that he's going to tell them about all these little g gods that have never been able to stop him before, and how that his gods were better than all the rest of them. He came and one thing on his mind, and that was destroy everything good that God was doing in Judah, and to claim those cities as his own. Satan isn't after us just to give us a bad day every now and then. He would love nothing more than to disrail our whole life. Daddy, what happens to you if Satan gets a hold of you and he pulls you away from his house, and he pulls you away from his word, and he pulls you away from prayer, and he ruins your life? It doesn't stop at Daddy, does it? It affects Mama. It affects the kids. Brother Easton, what happens if Satan gets in and he pulls you away? Not only is it going to destroy my family, it's going to hurt you, the Baptist church, as well. He doesn't want to just come and give me a bad day. He wants to come and ruin everything that we built. He don't want to just come in and hurt Daddy or hurt Mama or hurt the kids. He wants to come in and split the whole family. He wants to come in and tear everything up that is there that he can touch. He wants to wreak havoc. Y'all remember on Looney Tunes, the little Tasmanian devil? Y'all remember how he was? He spun around like a tornado, and everything he touched, he just tore it all to pieces. That's like the devil. He wants to come in and just bounce from side to side and tear everything up that he can on the way out. But when he comes by to destroy everything that God has given to us and everything that God has built in us, when he comes by to destroy our faith, when he comes by to destroy the bonds we built with one another and we built with our family, when he comes to destroy everything good that God has given to us, we can either say, okay, and let him, or we can buckle back down on the worship that we've been having and the relationship that we have with God, and how that he's proved himself so good to us in the days past, and say, no, not today. Not today. It's not going to happen like that. I'm not going that way. I believe I'll just stick with God. He's been faithful all these years. Longer than I've been alive, longer than we've been alive, longer than this church has been here. He's been faithful, always been faithful. Why in the world would he quit now? I believe I'll just trust him. And I'll just stick with what he's already given me, what he's already done for me, and how he's already answered prayers. He's already saved me. He's already blessed me with a family. He's already blessed me with kids. He's already done so much for me. I think instead of looking there and shaking in my boots and being worried about what the devil's going to do towards me, I believe instead that I'll just say, all right, Lord, he's here again. I need you. And just give it to him and let him take care of it. Miss Angie, you can come on the piano this morning. Let's all stand this morning, head bows and eyes closed. I don't always do that, but